Well, I first fell in love with theater when I was very young. I started performing at the age of 5. With Shakespeare, I was madly in love with Shakespeare by high school. I think Shakespeare is important to go see, and it's important to me because of the arts. It is a classic form, and the stories that we tell now in movies and current day, they all come from those classic forms, those original stories. And so I think they're important for us to revisit, to see done, to see how they can be reworked and done differently. The arts in general, I think theatrical stage productions are not done as much, especially on the West Coast, as they are on the East Coast, and so we need to really keep that art form alive. Helen Borgers came to our theater company in 1998. She was the artistic director until her death last year in 2017, in November. She really created this company. They were a traveling company that traveled out in the parks and performed for free. And then they were able to get this space in 2002. And she took what was this little traveling band of people and created a true theater company that had roots and had history and continued with her original mission, which was bringing classical theater to the people of Long Beach at an affordable price. She wanted them to feel like they wanted to pick up books after they came to see a show here. They wanted to read what they had seen. She wanted to encourage people to read and to visit classical pieces of literature, either by going to see them on stage or listening to readings or picking up that book. I had been bringing my students to see shows here at the theater, but there was one particular year, about 7 years ago, that the theater had fallen on very hard times. And because of that, Helen thought that they would have to close the doors. And it was the end of my school year. It was in June, and I said I could give her the summer. I'd come in. I have a background in marketing and PR. And I said, I'll bring some people in, and we'll see if we can kind of sweep out the cobwebs, figure out what we need to do, how we can make changes, and how we can get the theater back on its feet. And those 3 months have turned into almost 7 years. Our mission is to promote literacy through the classics, doing them in classic time period. So where other theater companies may do Shakespeare and they perform them in a more modern time setting, we try to do them within the time that Shakespeare wanted them to be done in. So if it's supposed to be ancient Greece and the fall of Troy, we're right there trying to do our costumes and sets to bring you to that time period. There's nothing wrong with doing it in a modern way. We just want to keep that classical feel and give that to the people because there isn't very much of it. It's more expensive to do. It's a more costly way of doing production, which is why a lot of smaller theater companies can't do it in classical time. But we feel that that's important because it's not done very often. And we are the only theater company in Long Beach that is doing that 100% of the time. We perform other classics. So we do classic radio that comes from classic literature. We just did Treasure Island. We do Sherlock Holmes. We do A Christmas Carol, so we were talking Dickens and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Robert Louis Stevenson. So we do all kinds of classic literature. Our season in 2019, we're actually doing Christopher Marlowe, which is a Dr. Faustus, which was one of Shakespeare's contemporaries. So we do anything within classic time period. Our radio shows, our readings are all have their roots in classical literature somehow. I think Shakespeare is still relevant, along with all the classics, to today's audience because they are not new stories. We take those classic stories of Romeo and Juliet, and you see them done over and over. West Side Story, The 10 Things I Hate About You is Taming of the Shrew. So we see those stories because they're good stories. They've got great structure and good characters, and so we see them being done over and over. So why not go back to their original form and see them the way they were originally done and see how then they've been changed and modernized for today's audiences. My favorite Shakespeare play is Taming of the Shrew. I was always a fan of the movie with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor when I was growing up. I thought it was just so funny and so fabulous, and they were just so interesting looking. Costumes were great. And so that's always been my favorite. And even when I was in high school and I had to do a Shakespearean monologue, it came from Taming of the Shrew. So it's always been one of my favorite shows. One of our classics that we like, we did several years ago, we took and adapted A Child's Christmas in Wales, which is a poem, and we made it, Helen adapted it as a stage show. And it was such a magical show, just with snowball fights and kids sliding down hills on tea service trays. And it was just a fun Christmas magic show. And I had never read the poem at all. And it made me want to go back and read the poem. So that, I think that was a fun show for us to do. And it was just a magical production just on so many levels. So that's kind of always going to be one of my favorites, I think. Oh, our 2019 season is the season of villains. So we have all kinds of things about some really great villains. We start with Sherlock Holmes and the Final Solution, which has Moriarty and Sherlock going head to head. Moriarty being one of the great villains of all time. Then we go into Othello, which has another great villain in Iago. And then we have, right after that, Dr. Faustus. And then we have our July reading, our radio show is going to be 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And Captain Nemo is kind of a villain and kind of not. And so that's kind of an interesting adventure with all kinds of fun characters and kind of an interesting villain, I think. And then we do Titus Andronicus, which is very, very bloody and very gory and has some very bad villains. And then we have always in October is our radio month, and we're going to do The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. We always do War of the Worlds, and we're also doing Dracula. So that will be very, very fun. And then our Christmas season is The Plot to Overthrow Christmas, which is a Norman Corwin radio show that we've adapted the stage. Helen Borgers adapted it several years ago for the stage, and that is kind of a fun show trying to stop Santa having Christmas. And so that's a fun show. And then we always end with our radio adaptation of A Christmas Carol every year. And of course, Scrooge is a bit of a villain, but he turns out to be an okay guy at the end. Our ASL Literature Slams are on the first Friday of each night, and they're American Sign Language performers. And American Sign Language performance is a little bit different than what you would see maybe on the news. There's a performance element that comes into it, and they are performing literature and poems and songs. It's open to everybody, but it is all done with American Sign Language. And that started out of our American Sign Language interpreters that we had during our radio programs. We try to have them in as many radio programs as we can as they are available because they all are volunteers. And we found that for our deaf community, the radio programs worked very well for having interpreters for them. Our space is very small, so a full stage production, it would be very difficult for the interpreters within our space. But a radio show works, and the deaf community seems to be coming out to enjoy it. So we're very happy to have that service that we can do for our community. Our old-time radio shows have their own audience. I think we have some that people who come to both our Shakespeare and our radio shows, but our radio shows do have their own audience. They're fun. You get to come into the theater and see how radio was done in the 30s and 40s. It was performed in front of a live audience. You have a few actors on stage. They're dressed like they were in the 1940s. We have a thing called a Foley table. So we're actually making our sound effects live right there in front of you. So you get to see the horses. When the horse and the buggy come through, we've got bridles and coconuts making horse hoof sounds. And we have a group of actors that are playing multiple parts. So they're doing all kinds of different voices. It's very interesting, and we always try to have a keyboard player, so we're also doing our music live. It's fun to watch. It's interesting. The shows run about an hour, so they're really great to bring the kids to. They're always family friendly. We really, really enjoy our radio shows, and I think our audiences, especially the ones that keep coming back to every radio show, really enjoy them. And the price is right. They're $12.50. So it's a nice night out, and I think people have a good time. Well, I can tell you a little bit about our artistic director, Brando Katz. He grew up here. He started here when he was in high school. And our former artistic director, Helen Borgers, went to his high school, and she was trying to start a drama club. And he was reporting for the school paper and got immediately sucked into what she had to offer. And he came here, started performing in the shows, and only left briefly when he went to New York for his career for a while. He's kind of come in and out, but has always been Helen Borgers' second in command when he was here. He was always a person she thought that she would leave the theater to. And sure enough, when she passed away last year, that was her wish, that he would take over the theater. And so Brando packed up his bags. He lived in Hollywood, packed everything up, moved back down to Long Beach, and he's running this place. And he's running it the way he knows Helen would want it to be run. And he's living up to all of her expectations and all of ours. He's doing a terrific job. And we're just so thrilled that he was willing to change his whole path of his life to come down here and keep this place going. So the Long Beach Shakespeare Company is a core group of actors, but we always do have auditions. We like to bring in new people all the time, and we always let our actors that we've had in the past, they also will let us know if they're interested in a show. And when we do our casting, we always try to cast a lot of our actors that keep coming back. We have a kind of a core group of actors that do our radio shows, but we always have new people in those also. The idea is to have a home for our actors, that they feel that this is their home base, but that they're still able to go out to other theater companies and take other jobs in other places and grow as actors, but then they are always welcome back here. And we also like to have new people in because it's nice for our audience to see fresh new faces. So everybody at the Long Beach Shakespeare Company, everybody is a volunteer. There is not one penny pays for a salary, we're not even able to pay people for their drive for gas money. They come here because they believe in what we do. They want to be part of what we do. So from our lobby volunteers, or sometimes high school kids, to our backstage, to our tech booth, to our people who help sew the costumes and come in and paint the walls, and our actors, our directors, they're all volunteers. No one gets paid. Every penny that is spent for a ticket goes right into paying the overhead for things like rent, electricity, paint, costumes, insurance. So every penny that a patron spends goes directly back into this place. It doesn't pay anybody. Well, we love to have our community involved. So we have everything from, you can email us on our website and tell us what you're interested in. If you like to make costumes, maybe you don't have a lot of costume skills, we'll teach you. If you're interested in running the sound and the lights, we'll teach you. If you know how to do it, we even love you more. We like this to be a place where our high school and college kids can get some practical work experience and work side by side with professionals in the industry. Tim Leach, who is our head of production design, is a creature effects artist, and that's what he does. He creates all those things that you see in the movies, and to work alongside him and sometimes be able to network with him and his people are helpful. Our technical director is an audio engineer for television, and you're able to interact and network with him. So we like to think of this as a great place for people to network, learn maybe a new skill, be part of our family. We do some fun things that are just part of our theater family that we just do together. And for our actors, it's the same thing. They can come, they can volunteer. We love to have people in our community who are actors that are just starting out because we take actors of all levels. If you fill the part and you're willing to work hard and our director thinks that you can do it, we're willing to work with you. We want our community to be involved here. And the other way to help us is buying tickets, coming in, seeing a show. We also have donation levels. You can donate on our website and have your name printed in the program. $50 to $199 is one level, and each level that goes up all the way to $3,000, some of them have free tickets, some of them have free flex passes. Some levels you get to have your name as a producer, you get to be a producer, an honorary producer. So there's something for everyone. But the best way is to come see our shows. Sit in our theater, enjoy our productions, tell a friend. But the best thing is we love to have people in our seats. Why you must come see our shows. You must come see our shows because they're fun. They're We do a lot in a very small space. We do believe in spectacle and giving you lots of bang for your buck. We want you to think and feel and root for the hero and boo the villain and walk out and meet our cast. They always meet you at the end of the show, and you get to have that one-on-one to say how much you liked them or how scary they were or how pretty their voice was. We have a girl right now singing in our Christmas show that has a lovely voice. And we want you to be part of that. We want you to be part of our family. Our volunteers in our lobby get to know you and recognize you when you walk in the door. Our mascot Hamlet comes before the show or at intermission, and you can take pictures with him and feed him and learn all the things that you might want to know about having a pig as a pet. But we want you to come and enjoy what we have to offer. We've been here in this theater space for 17 years, and we really want people to come and see what we have to offer.